Get real advice from renowned experts and entrepreneurs on today's business leaders. Here's your host, Gabe Arnold.
All right, on today's show, I have Andrew Muller, and he is the founder of Andrew Muller Creative, and we are going to talk about entrepreneurship and probably some nerdy things, because I don't know if Andrew considers himself a nerd, but I consider myself a nerd, so I'm pretty excited about this conversation. So welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hey, man. Good to see you.
Our mutual and good friend, Vlad Merkatuman, connected us, and Vlad is the bomb. If you guys don't know him, you can check him out. I haven't given him a shout out in a little while. You can check him out at logicinbound.com. Vlad is the man. Vlad is, I always tell him he's going to be my first billionaire friend. So.
Well, you've already imparted a lot of value for me in this conversation, because now I know how to say Vlad's last name, which I've never known.
2 years, so you're welcome. Because I suck at last names. I was so bad. I pull up these. I always know, like, oh, I'm talking to Andrew, but I just discount last names because I suck at them. But I was like, I could say this last name, so this is excellent.
Yeah, it's where people mess up my last name a lot. They always say Mueller or and it's like it's Muller. There's two L's. It's a soft U. It's a Muller. Actually, we used to have two umlauts on the back, but after my grandparents came from Germany, it turns out that people didn't like Germans very much right after the Second World War. So to avoid discrimination, we took it off.
Nice. I didn't. Yeah. See, I'm so impressed with myself. I haven't pronounced your name right, and other people butcher it. So,
welcome to the Business Leaders Podcast. We're talking about last names all day long. You're
right. You are so lucky you tuned into this episode. But I can already tell it's gonna be a blast. But to actually start off, I have one question for you, Andrew, if you're ready. When did you first realize that you were an entrepreneur?
Oh, am I that? I don't know. I think that I realized I was an entrepreneur when I read a factoid that said that on Tinder, people who get swiped left the most have the word entrepreneur. And I said, that's probably me. I think that I can qualify to say that without being a liar. It's not something that you realize. I mean, when I was 16 years old, I had to drywall the previous summer, and I was going to graduate from high school, and it's August. I'm going into grade 12. I'm miserable. I'm like, how am I going to next year, when I have to actually work, not drywall? What can I do? So I'm looking at can I learn how to solder? What can I do with my brain? Because I hate manual labor so much. I'm looking at all sorts of weird stuff, and I ended up getting into content marketing, which was a really crazy thing. That was back in the days of Google AdSense, when that was actually profitable.
The text really did come.
It's a long dead. So I had a bit of success. I had some websites with 1,000 people a day just through content SEO, almost no keyword work at all, just trying to write interesting stuff. So, and then, just like everybody in digital marketing, you just jump into everything. Oh, I've done email, I've done this, I've done that. And I got a job with Microsoft, with Bing, doing pay-per-click, which, don't trust your Bing reps or your Google reps. They don't know what they're doing, man. We didn't even get trained on how to set up conversion tracking or anything. They're trained to help you spend more money. They are not trained to help you make more money.
Let's pause there for a second, and we're going to hear the rest of your story. I need to make sure everybody heard what Andrew just said, because that is my direct experience. Nobody at Bing and Google AdWords knows any more than you do, or they know marginally more than you because they know which page to open up in the beginning, right?
Yeah, and the copywriting training is very basic, use capitals at the beginning of each word, use a call to action, call now. You don't learn anything. So, I was reading all these other copywriting books because I was personally interested. Everyone else who worked there just wanted a job. They were all 50 years old, and they were overpaid for how good they were at the job. And they were not paid that much, by the way. So I'm working with clients. I'm writing down all these rubrics and matrices trying to like write ad copy and stuff. Everyone else is like, call now, and I don't know if my clients thought I was really weird or something like that because of that extra effort, but transitioning over to independent agency, it was quite a shock. It was like, whoa, dude, like you got to make people money. Like you can't just manage their advertising. I mean, luckily that was almost a decade ago. So, I don't feel bad saying that. I don't think anyone will think less of me now, but,
I love it, man. That is, that right there is a great snapshot of entrepreneurship.
it's like you're just running away from a job is what it is.
Well, yeah, in one sense, yeah, it's like doing that, but just jumping in and being like, I'll figure it out, and then learning that I have this reoccurring thought in a lot in my life that nobody knows shit about shit. And like we like, or maybe not nobody, but so many times we interact with people in the business world, and I'll sit there and listen and go, I know you read a book about that, but you've never done that, have you?
That's pretty insightful.
So no, I just appreciate the honesty, man. And what's cool is, and you can kind of tell us where you landed and how you got in the agency here, but you start there and that's fine, as long as you don't stay there. Because you actually got to go try and like break stuff and like lose money, make money, and like get your education. And then that's totally fine. What I don't like is I see persistent head knowledge with no action and experience, and that starts to grate on my nerves a little bit.
I feel like Red Foreman today. It's just like, you just need experience and, good work ethic. Like that's who I've become. And I used to be like, oh, I got to invent some amazing thing that's like going to take me like an hour a week. And then I'm just going to be like a rich millionaire. And now I'm just so sick of all of that. I'm like, I just want to show up. I just want to optimize these campaigns and like blow them out of the water and like just everybody leave me the hell alone and let me do That's it's kind of weird. I mean, I'm only 28, but I feel like I'm like 40 now. Just with my attitude towards work. Like it's crazy how things can change in a decade,
I love how you talked about starting out at 16 and like, doing drywall, which I've drywalled an entire home by myself one winter because I was in construction before and like.
Oh, in the winter too.
Oh, it's awesome.
God.
Running heaters,
frozen porta potties, like, oh man, that's a time.
Yeah, and for me, like that was interesting because I was like, oh my God, I can make a bunch of money, and I'm like, oh, I have to do this all myself, so this isn't gonna work, and then starting out as an entrepreneur that young, I was not only doing construction as a teenager, but I was selling websites as a teenager simultaneously.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, I made a ton of money in construction and then I lost it all in the housing market crash and went on a business after I got stuck for a bunch of money. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just stay in the tech and marketing. And I'm glad I did, honestly, because it just opens up such a big world. Like it's, and we love, and, the clients that we serve and support in the trades because they do excellent work and they're great companies. For me, that was never big enough to be like regional. It's like, I want to be national, international. Like I want to see what I can touch worldwide, and just so much more interesting. Cause I mean, you and I can wake up and be talking to somebody in another country or, around the world and like really change things all from my keyboard. It's odd to me still today.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I see that I didn't expect to see that in pay-per-click, and all I do is pay-per-click. Let me tell you, if you are in Mississippi, you had better be running ads because people just buy everything in Mississippi. That's one thing that I've noticed. Like, it's so easy to run ad campaigns there. It's impossible to not be profitable. I have a paving company there, and it's like we have like 130 to 1 ROI, and it's like I'd be really happy with 10 to 1, like and I'm sure if I was running that somewhere else, it would not be that great. Like, I'm sure it would be great, but like not that great.
All your competitors are coming to Mississippi now. You know that, right?
I don't know what it's like to live in Mississippi, so it's might not be a good trade, but we'll see.
So you start so we'll get back on track. Otherwise, we're just gonna have a blast the whole time, which will be fun, and nobody will know where we're going. But so you start in PPC with Bing, and you realize that nobody else is doing what you're doing, and you're really trying to provide amazing service and really dig in and learn copywriting. What was the kind of like education and experience arc there, where you start out and then you realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here, and then you shift? What was it like when you shifted out and opened your own agency? Because obviously, as you know, being an entrepreneur is a lot different than being an employee.
Right. Yeah. Well, so first off, I mean, I was doing things different than other people, but that does not mean that I was a keener. I took a lot of naps at work during there. And I mean, so you have this thing called a complete, and maybe this will be interesting because it is. I mean, it's not interesting to me, but it's the insider thing. So it's like if you work with a client, maybe you work with them for a few weeks, you solve all their issues, you close the ticket. That's a complete. Right? So you have to do 5 completes a week. That's your job. You do 5 completes a week, you do whatever the hell you want for the rest of the time. So there wasn't really this moment where I made a decision to leave. The moment was that I got walked into a room and they laid us off and shut down the building and like moved all our jobs across to another building, like in Florida. So that was the moment that I decided that I was going to do my own thing.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I wanted to just be this mogul who like had all these content websites and just made tons of money off of Google AdSense. And it's like, and I'm just paying content writers or something. Like I did not want to work with clients. But I'm not bad working with clients, so it wasn't really a big deal. But when you're young, you just like, you want things easy, and you just want it to be as simple as you can imagine it at the moment. Which is not very good. So, I mean, for me, I would say, like, are you familiar with the idea of the hero's journey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in storytelling, right? And for listeners, it's like you're where you are, you're in a nice, comfortable place. Something goes wrong, and then you have to go and fix it, and you kind of go into the proverbial underworld. It's a world of chaos because you don't know what's there, right? So if you go to school, you take a really hard course. You're in this like mirth. It's like, I don't know how programming works. Like, I just have to do these calculations and maybe I'll get it eventually if I do the exercises, right? And it's totally like, it's this stressful thing. But if you succeed, then you get to come back up to your regular place, but now you're smarter and brighter, and you get to help the people around you. So I think that there's this step that people take where, you hear that story and they're like, yeah, I was making like 150K, working 80 hours a week. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I need to take the plunge and do this. Like, I don't have that story. I got employment insurance for a year or so. I just like got to just work on it, like there was not this risky thing involved. Like, there's always a little risk.
Right.
So I never had to jump into that hero's journey where you go, okay, I have to jump into the unknown. You're always like, just sticking your toe in, right? And for me, the biggest moment in my career, and I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but it was this mindset shift. And maybe it was when I got pregnant, and I was going to have a daughter. And it's like, I have to do everything I can, even though I have no fucking idea what I'm doing now. Like, that's what I have to do now. And I think that's actually a pretty common experience for people when they have kids. Like my uncle said that to me. I explained this to him. I said, I used to try to do the least I could do, and now I try to do the most I can do. And he goes, yeah, every like new dad says that. So like, that's a very common thing. So my speed increased like 10 times. I went from, when I started doing Google ad campaigns in the agency world, it was like, I'll manage your Google ad campaigns, 10 campaigns for like $150, and it's like, the value of the service you provide cannot possibly be that high. If you think that that's a good deal. And now it's like we have campaigns at like, $3,000 and $5,000 retainers that are, and we're doing tons of market testing and, all sorts of really crazy stuff. I think if I just keep going on about how bad I am, people may not think that I'm actually good at my job today. So that's the risk, but I'll put myself under the bus for entertainment value.
No, I appreciate that you're saying that, Andrew, because people can smell bullshit, and that's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about, talking about, and kind of preaching against. And nobody wants to work with, a fake expert that says they're an expert at everything and has this facade. I believe that people really want to work with people that are honest and transparent and have experience and did start, at the bottom. So I super appreciate you just being honest and being yourself, because I can't stand, and I've had it, and those shows don't go so well. I've had people come on and really not be open. It's like, well, there's not a lot of value in sharing how perfect you are, because you're not perfect. So, and that doesn't help anybody. So I appreciate what you're sharing.
Yeah, that was something I learned. Like, I did a podcast for 3 years. It was like a comedy podcast, very inappropriate. And I've done a bit of public speaking. And one of the things that I learned, it's like, you need to, like, I don't know. I learned this feeling that you think, I should not say this in public. and whenever I have that feeling, and it's not just because it's inflammatory, like I said a swear word or something, like it's too personal.
Right.
And what I learned is that's exactly what you should say. like anytime so you just start getting this training. Every time you have that thought, it's like, I shouldn't say this. It's like, no, I definitely should say this, because those are always the moments I remembered from the show. It's like my favorite moments was like when you said something because it's, when you go into like a public speaking engagement, or you go into like a podcast like this, even though there's no structure, like we can talk about whatever we want, there is an implied box that's there, like just based on your own experience. And when you have those moments of vulnerability, I think that those are the times where you perceive yourself to be outside the box the most. I don't know if they really are, but that's what makes them memorable. And for some reason, you just feel proud that you were able to have that conversation. It's kind of a freeing thing. So,
I think that courage and bravery are things we need more of in our world. And I think that's what it takes to be transparent, is tell everybody, yep, I'm just like you. I've fucked up a lot of shit and I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. Like, that's how I was. I really did a lot of things that I would not do again. Like, I'm not a person that lives with regrets, but I always say, like, there's things that I've done that I would never do again. Because I know better now. And it's like, I think coming to any relationship, even in a public forum like this, we're building a relationship together and with our audience here, people will get to meet you and hopefully interact and work with you as well. I think that if you really want to establish a relationship, it has to be based on honesty. And like, the best place to start is like, yeah, that's where I was. Like, and I love that you just said, like, I didn't have that big moment where I got fired and I had no money. I had time, but it took me, and you shared about becoming a father. And for me, that's the same thing. Like, I really had to get my act together when my son was born. I was like, shit, he's going to learn everything from me. And I don't know anything. So like, it's that moment of truth where it's like, I don't even know what I believe. Like, it was such a foundational, amazing moment for me that you're right. It's like, now you want to do everything instead of doing the least amount of possible.
Well, anything could happen. It's a Pandora's box that you've opened, and anything, like, this kid could come out with gray scales like on them. Like, I have no idea what could happen. So like, I need as much as I can to just support the family. Like, it's like, whatever I think I need to multiply that by 5, because that's probably what I'll actually need.
That's so awesome. So that's definitely such a pivotal point. And I actually think that if we super pay attention to successful entrepreneurs, all of them had a pivot from how can I be extractive and suck the most I possibly can out of everybody else without doing any work, to how can I give the most and make the biggest impact. And I know for you and I, at least, it sounds like that started with having our own kid, that we're like, oh, like, I need to actually be a good influence there and take care of that. And then I think for me, that was where my mindset shift started to happen as well, where it's like, I want to make a big impact on the world. Like, I want my son and my son's great grandkids to live in a great world, and so how do I show up in a way that's going to make that happen, or at least contribute to it? And so I believe that entrepreneurship can be such an amazing ride and such a joy when we start to focus outward on serving and helping other people. I just think it's the shift that happens.
Why do it otherwise? Right. Like, why? Yeah, it's kind of weird, because I always had, like, I'm a musician on the side. Like, that's, these are kind of my 2 passions. I do marketing and I do music, and then, you just have your life and you watch Netflix. And I always had this myth that it's like, you need to you got to wait to have your kids at a certain time, because then now you won't have any time to do anything. You won't be able to get anything done. And, like, look at this person, they do it all, like they've got kids and somehow they still manage this career and blah, blah, blah. And like, my experience has not been that. Like, I do more music now than I did 2 years ago. I have a 6-month-old daughter. I do. And that wasn't exactly right when I started trying a year ago, by the way, like it reaches far, but that was like a real hyperdrive moment,
Right.
I do more music now, and I have made far more strides for my clients now than I did before. So like, I haven't really had that experience. I mean, yeah, you have less time because you have kids. I mean, it's also pretty awesome. Like, it's like having the best puppy in the world. Like, and I just grab her and like, oh, I just love you, and it's like, and yeah, and they stay a puppy for like a while, like it's not like just like 2 or 3 months and then they're already too old. Oh yeah, it's like not the same thing. You don't have that puppy smell. Like, the baby still smells like that baby smell.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, yeah. So like, you have that added thing. So I just, yeah, I feel like I really bought into that myth for a long time of just like, oh, how much the family takes away from this. And like, I know that there are people, it's like, okay, they are these creative people and then they had to take some shitty job as an accountant to support their family because they weren't able to make it work and their spirits are crushed. Like, I mean, how many times I grew up with those types of stories, right? And I think that they really implant this ideology in you, which I don't know is really true at all. And it's like, or just think a little bit differently. I mean, maybe I'm just lucky because I've been working for myself for almost a decade. But yeah, like maybe it's just a super privileged thing for me to say that, but it is weird, the space that we're working in. Like, if you just know more, you just, all of a sudden everything works. Like, you don't have to get bigger muscles, or do like all this training. Like, it's all in here, and right in here doesn't even really exist. So it's like the boundaries of what you're able to accomplish are very bizarre.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to that upper level, like, the lower level, like managing a pay-per-click campaign, Google Ads, Facebook, like, it's a fucking piece of cake, man. Like, it wasn't for a long time, but just doing the basic stuff that everybody does, like, that is not hard. But then once you start getting to this other level, like, for me, like, market testing is my big thing, because I always had these campaigns coming in. People would have like a lead magnet, some ebook download, or they would have nothing. And they'd be like, oh, I'm a realtor and I just want you to market me. And it's like, yeah, but you don't have anything to offer. Like, it's like, oh, a discount? Like, we can give a discount. And it's like, no, like, an offer is not just a discount. Like, it's just something that's anybody wants. Like, do they want it? Like, and it's like, well, we just want to sell them things they don't want. And it was just very frustrating. Like, this has plagued me my entire career, is like, people are giving me this shit and I can't do anything with it. Like, it's very hard to market, And Facebook is a very weird platform. Like, their algorithm is actually, even though like everything about Facebook is like this clunky piece of garbage that always breaks constantly, the core product, like the advertising product that powers it, even though it's, again, that's clunky and that falls apart and like you get errors all the time that make no sense. The core product of this algorithm that finds certain people that you want to reach
is amazing.
Is an amazing algorithm. And if you know how to work it, and it's taken me a long time, and that's where that gets to that experience thing, because every valuable thing that I've learned about Facebook is not in any of that documentation. It's like, yeah, it's like, I'm learning to be a race car driver by reading the manual of how the car works. It's like, well, yeah, gas go, like, it's not that hard, but there's all of those articulations that create the actual success. So what I've learned is that typically for market testing, I don't know if you watch The Office, but they go, oh, we paid this market research company, they got us $50,000 worth of leads, where are the leads, right? Like, and that's kind of a typical, I mean, that's more of a lead generation system, but usually to do market testing, like, you're paying $100,000, $300,000, like these are, $2 million Coca-Cola put in, like, it's, these are the types of numbers, and you have to, hire this big research firm or something. But Facebook actually like gives you this market research tool that's extremely powerful and
extremely affordable too.
Yeah, and it's pretty affordable. So one of the things that I started doing when I started delving into it is just start making people come up with a lot of different offers and then testing them. And that was kind of like my first step. It's like, okay, I gotta, instead of getting 6 months into this campaign and trying to convince them that they need to give me something, I need to start this off this way. And that kind of like, that really spiraled out, man. Like now when I do if I do a new campaign, like, and we're doing market testing, I'll have like 400, 500 different tests and whatever. And Facebook will tell you if it's good, because I'll have one lead magnet that's like $2 a click, and then another lead magnet will be 6 cents. And it's man, your profit margins really shift when you are only paying 6 cents a click.
Yeah. Let's dive into that, because this is excellent. And I'm so glad you brought this up. I really don't think people understand what a good offer is. And because of that, they just blow money on something that will never work. And I've experienced incredible frustration the same way you have. And it sounds like you've solved it in a much better way than me, honestly, but of like saying, no, like nobody gives a shit about that. That's such a selfish, all about your company thing that nobody's going to click it, download, or be a part of it. What does the market actually want from you? Like, what do they need? Where are they at? So if you can, I would love it if you could break down like what a good offer is, and then we can get back into like the mechanics of how you figure that out. Does that make sense?
Well, so the first thing that I would say is a good offer is what your market wants. So there's definitely no formula for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a thing. I mean, there's lots of like formulas for how to structure a lead magnet title, like 7 ways you can,
not that.
whatever. And those are fine. Like those can work great. Like they're not, I'm not going to, even though they're only as clickbait as you under deliver on the content. So if you over deliver on the content, it's not clickbait.
Right.
Yeah. So usually what I run, and I'll even give you a few numbers here. I run ads for 400 impressions when I'm doing a test.
Okay.
So, like not very much. Like in the past, it would be like $1,000, $2,000. I can split test these things, get our 99% certainty, statistical certainty on these, and then we'll know like which one's better. I don't do any of that anymore. I run like 50 tests. I spend like $2 a test, and like the winners jump out.
Okay.
You know, it's like I don't want a winner that's 10% better than the other one. I want one that is 3,500% better than the other one. You know. Yeah, that's the first thing that I would say. And the other thing that I would say,
can I ask a question right there?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's super helpful. And I totally agree with you. A good offer is what your market wants. So you're doing 50 tests. So I come on, and what's a typical client for you? Like, do you work in multiple different industries, or do you?
Yeah, I don't have I work with a lot of web agencies. I do a lot of white label work. I probably have about 50-50. So lots of web agencies and then lots of direct clients. Obviously, I mean, direct clients are great because nobody has to mark up my service.
Right.
White label clients are great because they'll bring you like 5 clients.
Right.
So the margins are worse, but you don't have to do as much sales work.
So yeah, we'll just use a web agency just for simplicity then. So brand new web agency comes to you, like they can do the work, but they don't market, which, you know, we've all been there, right? Starting out a business. How do you get them to go, oh, like 50 different offers to test, or what's the process of brainstorming that? Because I think I've seen this as a point where people get stuck, where they're like, I don't even know what ideas to try. I don't even know what are bad ideas. So how could I give you a good idea? Like, how do you kickstart that creativity between you and the client where you're like, all right, we're going to test these concepts and do 50 versions? What does that look like?
Well, I'm a big fan of the algorithms. So I would say, don't use your own brain. First off, go on Reddit and search posts all-time top and find so go to some subreddit, like entrepreneur subreddit, and it's like, what are all the top headlines that got a bunch of
I love it.
Yeah. So for example, I'm here on Reddit Entrepreneur, and I've sorted them to the top. There's a few at the top that don't make any sense, and then there's one that says the marketing genius of Lil Nas X. Right. I think is that the Old Town Road guy? Yeah. So so then I would take that. I would go the marketing genius of, and then I would just put something else in of Neil Patel, or whoever made sense of that. So those are like a really great way to go about it. You know, here's another one. I'm so done with all this hashtag hustle lifestyle. you know, like, and like, those are like, I like to scrape little pieces of copy there and then kind of rework them and
Nice.
make them work that way. So Reddit can be useful. Sometimes finding the right subreddit is difficult. Like I did one that was meant to be for web developers, like a web platform, and the subreddits on there were totally useless. They were all like really intricate design things. And it was not particularly useful for me.
So it sounds like you have to find a niche, but stay high enough in it, not get too granular in the beginning. Is that typically how you?
It depends on what the product you're selling is, right? If it's like a super tight, like the platform we were using was kind of like a Squarespace styled one. Like it's not meant to be like, you know, we're getting into Webflow and like super advanced, like people who are crazy designers. Like these are people who just wanted to, the niche was, the avatar was just people who, you know, we need something that works easy, but it's, you know, semi-powerful, right? So yeah, so just matching that for the target is pretty useful. Actually, I can show you kind of an example of a test that I've done here.
Awesome.
I've got the world's largest monitor, so it might be kind of small here.
No, okay.
So this is an example for a renovation client that I did. So this is how we run our tests. We just put some text on an image for our early tests. You know, 13 secrets to finding a home renovation contractor you can trust. So if I jump these to the top, it's like, okay, well, we have all these ones that are like 7 clicks. Remember, these are all roughly around 400 impressions. So like that's quite a, you know, different click-through rate difference. So it's like, okay, we ran this one for 400 impressions and got like 4 clicks and 87 cents a click. Like this, people are not responding to this ad. Like people don't really care about this. Right. 5 ways HGTV will ruin your next renovation job. So, I mean, a lot of, but look at this one here. It's like 15 cents a click. We got like 61 clicks on it. Like this one is killing it. Like this is a super high click-through rate. What is this one? 5 current, and this is the one that we're using right now too. 5 current trends in homes that people regret in 20 years. So eventually we start testing a bunch of images, and we kind of come up with a campaign that, you know, really does well. And really at the end, I've got like one ad that really works.
And then you just take,
so like,
take the winning headline and.
Yeah, so we took that headline. I tested a bunch of images to see what people liked. What I found was these little circles created like a curiosity trigger for people. I think that my losing one was like 30 clicks, and then with the one like just without them was like 30 clicks, and then with them was like 80 clicks.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Hey, do you mind if we just take a quick break for a minute? Do you want to pause the recording? Is that okay?
Awesome. All right. So yeah, you're saying, like, I love what you were saying there about the curiosity factor, because that's something that I think honestly people just don't understand about marketing, is that if you figure out curiosity, how to drive curiosity engagement, then I mean, everything gets easier to me. So I love that you shared that about that test.
Right. Well, especially like on Facebook, Google ads, you're doing bottom of the funnel traffic. They're usually people who are already searching, local accountant. It's like they're looking for somebody. They know what they're looking for. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, like people are not searching for you. They're not actually, you have to draw their attention through. And, you know, some people call that a prospecting campaign. It's new clients entirely. So, and you can see like, this is quite an ugly ad too. Like this is not a nice ad. You know, you don't need, like, you shouldn't be investing graphic design resources when you don't have a proven ad yet. Like, get it to work first, and then I can have a graphic designer do this. But I'm paying
or
like
not.
or not.
Like, I think if you're getting 7-cent clicks, I think you're getting a good price. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, we call it a red dot, which is what are we focusing on? So right now, this is 7-cent clicks. Like cost per click is not the factor that's going to make or break this now. Now it's okay. Well, what's our conversion rate on our landing page? Which how do I get this thing to go down? Like, so here's the landing page, and you can see, we've gone through so many different variations. This column on the right is what matters, is your conversion rate. And some of these tests, they'll say they're higher, but they're not actually good. And, so right now after we're at AH. So we've gone around the alphabet once and then gotten up to H again. So what is that, like 40 variations? And it's like, to get 6 or 7 cent traffic on like a 15% conversion rate is pretty fantastic,
Yeah.
So after that, it's like, okay, well, what's our upsell? Like maybe that's our red dot now. Usually once I have about 10% conversion rate, I'm focused on an upsell page now in the next one. But I mean, we went from our previous campaign, or the campaign that got before I started here was like, I don't know, it was like 40, 34 bucks a lead, you know, and now they're like 72 cents. Now, I mean, like that's definitely.
Is this one in Mississippi by chance?
No, this is not a Mississippi one. This is not one of those Mississippi ones. So, I mean, this is an example of definitely like on that upper tier of retainer where it's okay.
Right.
Like,
you've worked your ass off on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do smaller campaigns like that are, you know, in the $500 range or whatever for something super basic. But once you're getting into, yeah, if you want to get 7-cent clicks, like, and I mean, it really does depend on the industry. Sometimes
it varies a lot.
Yeah, sometimes getting less. I'm really excited. I have this accounting client right now, and it's been a terribly hard industry to do well because nobody cares about accountants. And I've got like 12-cent clicks on it or something like that with like a really high conversion rate too. Yeah, if somebody gets you cheap clicks and no conversions, it's not very useful. It's the correlation between the two that adds up to your cost per lead. But if you have both, then you're doing really well. So yeah, I do really like that tool I showed you, Unbounce. It's really, really good for doing like, I can just whip tests out really quickly. And we use MouseFlow a lot. Which is kind of like Hotjar. A lot of people are familiar with Hotjar. MouseFlow is similar. It offers a few more features. And so typically what we'll do is we'll read the heat maps and the scroll maps and we'll see where like there's areas of friction. It's like, okay, like a ton of people are dropping off right at your testimonials. So maybe we should like put some different testimonials. Like, and usually I'm able to find a trend. It's like, and it's always different because sometimes it's like, oh, we need a trend where someone's like, oh, I read the lead magnet and it helped me so much. And sometimes the testimonial needs to be, oh, we just really like this company. They're so great to work with, even though it's a lead magnet and you wouldn't, and it's like they're building credibility. Yeah. So it's like, there's not always a rhyme or reason to it. Like you just have to very intuitively check it out. And learning to do those heat maps was very hard. That was like, it took me a while because it's just like, it could mean anything. It's like people are dropping off here. I don't know why. Like, so.
Yeah. And I love what you shared there about like, just, this is kind of a great place to kind of bring this home. And I think we'll definitely have you back on the show here soon as well. But you started out talking about like, you start out your career by, you know, probably trying to do the least possible. And now you've realized that if you really invest and do the repetitions, and like you said, you've gone around the alphabet twice just on that test to get the results. That's, in my opinion, what it takes to actually succeed at something, to be willing to put in hundreds and thousands of repetitions to figure out what works. And then you get the reward. And I think that's not only a key for being really successful in PPC, but also just
for everything
in general, like in, you know, life and especially entrepreneurship. And all of the successful entrepreneurs I know have that same trait that you have. They're willing to be patient and persistent forever, like essentially until they finally are, you know, by, you know, things outside of our control or things inside of our control, we finally are guided into the right path and things work. And if that's your attitude, is like, I'm just going to keep showing up until I figure it out, then I think success comes a little bit easier than, oh, I'm going to do the least possible and try to make money. So.
Yeah, and this whole idea of like setting your mind on something and then you know, the universe creates a path. Like this is less abstract than ever. It's like I'm setting my mind on doing pay-per-click. I'm reading tons of articles. People are remarketing to me products that are training me on new ideas. It's like, this is not even that abstract anymore, like with how much your activity is being tracked. Like set your mind to something and it's like, oh man, like I want to become really good at guitar. And I've seen all these ads for guitar courses. And like, I took this one and it like completely, like, it's like, it's not even that hard to imagine. Like you don't even, you know, I love being a spiritual person, but you do not even have to go into that realm to realize how
works now.
Yeah. It's like, you just have to commit to something and focus. And for me, the market testing is like everybody, when they start out, they're good at something. So they want to make a product and then they learn that nobody wants that product. If, you know, if they're lucky, maybe people do want the product. And for me, that level of maturity has come like, I'm going to put my ear to the ground and I'm going to listen for the faintest vibrations of what it like is coming back to me. And I mean, I think this market testing, I mean, you saw how many tests I had just in that one round, and I do usually about 10 rounds, by the way. Just to get to where we are now. So that's like a nice symbol for you to remember and be like, oh, okay, like this is what that could look like. You know, if you're running a restaurant, it's like, are you doing lots of surveys? Like, are you hearing what people are saying? I mean, you know, it's like, are you going to launch a new menu item? Like, let's do a bunch of Facebook tests and see which ones people want. Yeah, it's, when I used to do web sales, kind of like you, I did maybe $500,000 in sales, like lots of extended, you know, 10-hour discovery sort of things. And I learned that skill of just listening. And I just realized that there's so much more to get if you listen than if you just talk. I mean, that we're talking now. So, you know, there's a certain irony in that, but it's like people will just, they will just tell you what they want you to sell them. and then you just offer it. And same for this thing, like that 5 trends, that was a Reddit headline that I ripped. And like, it's not copyrighted content. What is this, such a big article? Nobody's going to remember that if they had seen it on Reddit. Like nobody, you know, it's like, it's not some unethical thing. And it's like, so
that's what people want. That's you're like you said, you're just listening to what people want.
Yeah. So I guess the skill, like to me, the most valuable entrepreneurial skill that I have learned is whatever your market is, whatever your niche is, like, how do you listen to the people there? And I'm sure it's different for everyone. The Facebook thing is a little bit universal because, you know, it goes cross-platform, but yeah, it's, you know, if you run a construction business, it's like, I mean, for me, I always want to say, like, what's the thing people value the most? You know, it's like, oh, I found that nobody knows how to do market testing and it's insanely valuable. So that's what I'm going to learn.
I love it. Well, this is awesome, Andrew. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing incredible knowledge. I mean, honestly, I have hung out with hundreds of real and quote unquote marketers over and what you just shared, if people just listen, like you just said, but if they really listen and pay attention, what you just shared can be absolutely game changing. So I would definitely encourage everybody to go check out Andrew's site. It's andrewmullercreative.com. You can check that out, and we will definitely be having you back on again soon. So I really appreciate all the time and all the wisdom, man. It's been awesome and a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah, it's a blast every time. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
This show is brought to you by Today's Business Leaders. Learn more at our website, todaysbusinessleaders.com. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify today.